Okay, today is January 7th, 2012, and we have Andy Stapleton talking about hugeness in lists with the page loaded. That's right.
Yep.
Here you go, Andy.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Going to catch y'all before I have to go take my daughter to see the chipmunks. So, quickie here. What we have is one of the things is on the tables is being able to access large amounts of data initially, or being able to see things in large amounts of data. I've got a database up on our remote server that has over 13 million records in it right now. And what I did was created a SQL statement that joins that. It's a EPI price link here that joins that with the people to get the people name and the parts to get the part number that we have. And I want only parts that have a price and only quantity that's greater than 0. Now this gives us a big listing. And let's go through a step here of saying, listen, I want to be able to get the initial set of records fairly quickly, and then in background I want it to continue to fill in based upon them, whatever they're doing. You can add on QBE, you can add on whatever you wish. Normally when you do a SQL statement, you have to have a data source. And instead of putting the data source inside the loop or inside the call to the procedure, I moved the data source up to the global area of the window. And the global area of the window means that I can access it anywhere. I can do whatever I wish to do with it. The next step is I init the SQL statement, which is just a procedure that says this is the statement that I want to do. That is a fairly simple, straightforward SQL statement that allows you to do the select all the fields that I want. It executes the query without correction, reads the first set of records, and I've got it set up to where it reads 50 of the first ones and then break out. So once you're done with that first set of reads, you're done. The other global thing I'm doing is I'm calculating the number of reads that I've done so far. Okay. Once you're done with that, the next step is that I want to be able to fetch a page at a time. Create another little local procedure called fetch SQL pages where I've got the page count. This is how many records I want to read for each set of pages. So if I want to read 2 pages at a time, 3 pages at a time, I know my page size is 10. You can get more fancier with local variables, checking the page count if you want to. And the only thing I'm doing is while the local number of read is less than the page count I said, I'm going to read the next one and I'm going to add it to the table again. Increment both my counters. That way I know how many I've read so far, and you're done. Now that allows me to fetch it again. The last step is I've got an auto fetch local procedure. This is a neat little package because it allows you, by clicking over here on the automatic timer, to set up an automated procedure mechanism is what they call it. I've got it set up to infinite number of times. Times between call is 5 seconds per pop. Each call results in a new timer, so it'll be 5 seconds later. Okay? I want it to start immediately, and I've got it as by using the hyperfile. Now that is if you want to run it as a background task, which I don't. I don't have it run as threaded, but you're going to need to make sure that you're using the hyperfile SQL so that way it knows that it's supposed to use the same connection as you are. Okay? Once you're done with all that, then the rest of it is just the screen, which is all I did at this point was put the company name, part number, price, quantity available there. This button here is for no other reason than just to prove that I was getting extra pages, so I'll go ahead and get rid of that because we don't need it. And then we hit the F9. Now, this is going to be a little bit slower because I am using OEDB to go to it first shot, but there's your first page. Now that's 50 characters. Now if you'll watch, you'll see that your slider here gets smaller each time. Okay? In the background, it is certainly doing that, and I can still look for Fred. I can still look for G and S, whatever I want to. I can look for Scott. And I'm literally looking through every one of the pages that's in that DNS or in that data source as it goes through this. Okay? And it's just that simple. Just that simple. So I'm now selecting from 13 million records on a server out in Utah, in Tennessee, with that speed. And I can guarantee you one other thing. I put on the native driver on this, and it's like sitting next door. It's really, really fast. And that's as simple as it is. That's all you have to do. So now the question is, or the biggest thing is, how much do you do that in a normal setup? What I do there is if this has multiple records or multiple tables, then I put multiple ones up there, and I can actually pass the data source to whatever I want it to run. Okay. This is a memory table that I use. Let me take a look at that, and I'll show you. Direct access would not do this because you can't page load the data source. So let's take a look at it. All I have is the company name, text, column price, that. The content is by programming. That's why you have to use the table add line. Okay? And it's just a very straightforward. There's no link to any data source or anything. In fact, this actual screen application has no analysis. It does not import anything from any database. It's just the SQL statement straightforward by itself. That's all it is. Okay? Just as simple as that.
Sweet,
Yeah.
sweet.
All of about 15 minutes worth of work here. It's just 15-20 minutes worth of work to do it. As long as you got the table, you're good to go. It's very easy to do, and of course you can obviously get a lot more fancier by holding variables on how many records is in the data source itself, how many records you've read so far, how many records is in your your table so far, because you can do an HMB rec count in any of those. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. Just simple as that.
15 minutes for Andy. 24 hours for Arnold.
No, it's not that hard. It really isn't. Now, the biggest thing is I'm going to get with Glenn with this same thing, and we're going to try to generate a demo table with his QBE that uses this functionality, so they'll have a full-blown example with Glenn Rathke on how to do this. So that way, with the QBE and with Glenn Rathke, you'll be able to do it both.
Hey, Andy, did you take a look and see what's happening on your server side? The whole data set has been read at the server side from the initial statement, hasn't it?
There's a key point with this, and that you got to make sure that you understand. When you're doing the SQL statement, now I'm using MS SQL, and you'll have to do it for Postgres. You'll see I've got with no lock on every reference to any table. If you do not use that with MS SQL, then what you're doing is you're locking those records for you to read, and you don't want that. Okay? And what it will do then is it will slow down the rest of the system, because you've read those records in and you've locked them to you, and everybody else has got to get a little bit slower to see if it's unlocked or not. So use the no lock to free that up. And with Postgres, I don't know if there is an issue with that. I think you could actually call a procedure.
We don't actually have archaic locks. Yeah, we gave up locks a long time ago.
Okay, well, either direction. Since the rest of the world primarily uses MS SQL for a lot of their stuff, you got to keep this in mind. Okay? But however you do this,
we'll catch up eventually.
Eventually, yes. You lead the way. I know you do, Pete. But do remember to put the no lock on. Yeah, I understand that. The other thing is that you can put the, like Freddie told us, the no bind. And that actually, or that H no bind, I believe it is. H no. behind. That's what it is. And that will make a difference on the speed as well. It'll actually come up a little faster with the OLEDB. See, it comes up just slightly faster with OLEDB than it did before. Okay? So yes, you're accessing, and the DNS itself, or the data source itself, is full of those records. It's already been gathered on the server side. But with the no lock, you're not locking it up. You're not holding up those records for everybody else to read as well.
So you only have to go plus plus because every time you go down, you're okay because you're starting always on the top.
That's right.
But if you did a sort, that would kind of start all over again, right?
Well, you can trap the sort, okay? Part of the deal is that when you got a query here or a query here, you have the ability inside the browse itself, and I'll show you what that does, and I'll make this pretty quick. Then I'm being told it's about time to go. Man. But yeah, I'm being summoned. Darlene wants to go see Alvin and the Chipmunks, and by God, we're going. But you can see here, one of the first things is filtering the records. Okay? And what you do here is you've got the events of your table here, okay? And you have the events of the company name or whatever you got. And then if you click this little ellipsis down here, these are more processes available for your table or wherever you go. Part of it is filtering the records. If I check that off, now I've got another thing here so I can test the filtering, and if I need to re-execute the statement to get a different record set, I can do that. Okay, and that's part of what Glenn's QBE type thing really, gets into is getting that and being able to intercept those type of queries along with a QBE on the screen. I mean, I haven't looked at it much, but when we get together, we'll be able to do both. And it will allow you to say, hey, that's not in my current record set, so I'm going to go ahead and jump out and make a whole new filter and send it down to your init and reinitialize the query. Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I'm going.
I'm talking about the other company here, who is, yeah, because Glenn said there's a couple more spots.
Oh, okay, that's great. I think that's great. We're going to move our application here that's been 13, 14 years in Clarion to WINDEV. And February, the other two programmers and myself, because what they want me to do is be there in the evenings helping to answer questions, is all going to his class. So I'll be there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, and go see your movie, man.
Okay. No
problem. I'll post this.
Yeah,
does anybody have any other questions? Type it into the Skype, or raise your hand, or something.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, watch this, and if you have questions, ask on Friday. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll go over to you on Friday real quick. Okay.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Bye now.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks.